Introductions then.
Okay, if I start by introducing myself, my name is Philip Clark. I'm one of the independent members of the Standards Committee of Bridgend County Borough Council. I've been on the Standards Committee now for just over 4 years.
My name is Peter Baker and I'm also an independent member of the Standards Committee.
So I'm Gavin Thomas and I'm a Town and Community Council member of the Standards Committee. I'm a member of Maesteg Town Council.
I'm Councillor Martin Williams and I'm an elected member of the Standards Committee.
Kelly Watson, Monitoring Officer and Advisor to the Standards Committee.
Annie Jean Waller, Co-Team Manager and Deputy Legal Advisor of the Public Services Ombudsman for Wales.
I'm Louise Morland. I'm an Investigation Officer for the Public Services Ombudsman for Wales.
Councillor Brian Jones, and I'm the defendant.
Angela Hopkin, Porthcawl resident.
I'm Jeannie Monks, resident of Porthcawl and ex-local Porthcawl Town Councillor.
Thank you all.
I'm on remote chair. Can I just introduce myself? I'm Mike Clark and I'm supporting Councillor Brian Jones.
Okay, thank you very much.
Excuse me, Chair, may I just mention that very often during what you were saying, I couldn't hear other people speaking. So I wonder if the mics could be switched on so I'm able to hear. Thank you very much.
Okay, point noted. I did ask everyone to speak up clearly so that we can all hear, and we will endeavour that we can do so. Just now ask then the Ombudsman if they would actually present their report, please.
The process for everybody. Do you want me to do a few?
Yeah, thank you.
So for everybody's benefit, there is a procedure for the hearing today. We're going to try and keep it as informal as possible, but we do need to cover certain aspects and they do need to be covered in a certain order. So there will be an element of formality about it, but if you need a break at any time, please just say, just raise your hand or make contact. So the procedure has been sent to you in the pack. So we've already agreed it's going to be dealt with in public. So the first stage today is stage 1, and that's the findings of fact to discuss whether there are any significant disagreements to the fact contained in the investigation report. The committee will then retire to consider the finding of fact and will come back and notify you if they have found those facts. If at that stage they decide that there is a case to answer, they will then move on to the second stage, which will be to consider whether there's a breach of the code. Again, you both get the opportunity to make your representations at that stage. Again, the committee will retire, and if they decide there has been a breach of the code, we move on to stage 3, which is deciding which sanction is appropriate. And again, you'll both be given the opportunity to make your representations at that point. Chair, at this stage, we move on to the Ombudsman's Office, who will outline their report, and then there can be the discussion about the disputed facts, and Councillor Jones will have the opportunity to give his views.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, sorry. Thank you, Chair. Before we move into the presentation on the report, can I just clarify in terms of witnesses, is the committee content to hear from the witnesses who are here today? And the only question I have is, is it permissible for them to sit whilst the early stages, and should we wait until their evidence is due? That's the only question that I have for the committee.
Chair Samantha Fewf want to consider the witnesses and whether they, which section they can contribute to, if any. Would you like to hear representations from Councillor Jones as to why he thinks the witnesses are needed?
Yes, Councillor Jones.
The witnesses are required to actually confirm the treatment that I've been receiving from the town clerk at Porthcawl Town Council, plus other councillors, and that would be for both of them, because one was a councillor and the other is someone that attended council meetings and could see for herself, but she'll also have things to say which clarify which I have said in my evidence.
If I can just clarify, Councillor Jones, the witnesses, if they call in, if you bring in the witnesses to give evidence on your behalf, it needs to be relevant to the alleged breaches of the code. So can the witnesses you've got here today contribute to the alleged breaches of the code and your views and the Ombudsman's views of those?
I believe they can, yes.
Okay, can you just expand on that?
Especially with the case for the clerk, they can actually, they've had the same sort of, what's the word I'm thinking of, experience then of not getting information from her when requiring it. And so, yes, they can give that. And as Jeannie Beer said, she's a former councillor and she can clarify other things that's happening on the council.
Would the Ombudsman like to have a view?
As outlined in our preliminary submissions to the Standards Committee, based on the information that Councillor Jones has already shared, the letters that Jeannie Monks and Angela Hopkin have provided, our assessment of that evidence is that it actually goes to mitigation in the event that Councillor Jones should be found in breach, rather than the actual facts as outlined in the Ombudsman's report. But we completely appreciate that it is a view for the Standards Committee to take. So, you know, we refer to you in that regard. Entirely a matter for yourselves. The only submission we would make is if you do decide that they should, you know, whether they should be here for the entire process and whether they come in and out to, you know, to give their evidence as appropriate. So that's all I would ask.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, thank you, Chair. You know, there are the facts of this, and the facts are in front of us. There is a post made publicly. However, I think when we determine whether there is a breach or not, so I don't know whether this is in about the facts or whether it's a breach. It's whether that post is you know offers due respect to that member or to that member of the public. So I think it is important to get context as to whether respect is not an absolute, and respect is relative to the circumstances, and therefore I would like to understand the circumstances to understand whether that was undue respect or reasonable respect.
Councillor Donald.
So I guess my thoughts and question really is, at what stage of the process are the witnesses relevant? So in the first debate in the process of the actual breach as to whether or not the posts were made and etc., do the witnesses add anything to that, or do the witnesses add to the context as to why the posts were made? And if that's the case, that's a mitigation element. So that's a question, I guess.
Councillor Jones.
One of the Ombudsman's actually have actually accused me of actually showing the files to these people, and they're there for that purpose as well, to actually say that what they've seen. And so yes, it is a case of that they are here for that purpose, and they must stay for that.
Do you want to retire to consider?
If you will allow us to retire for a few minutes just to consider, I would appreciate it. Okay, thank you. Feel that the alleged breaches of number 1 and number 2 require you to actually leave the discussion, and actually we would ask you respectfully not to contribute to the items relevant to those 2 items. Yeah, go on.
Apologies. So the panel have considered the submissions that have been made, and obviously the panel have had the benefit of reading through the pack and the written submissions that have come in. The panel have determined that the witnesses that are being called don't contribute to the first two allegations of the alleged breaches of the code. However, they feel they can contribute to the third allegation, which involves the disclosure of information. Based on this, the panel have decided that the witnesses should not be present in the chamber for the initial part of the hearing, and the witnesses are going to be asked to leave the chamber and will be called in at the appropriate time. Thank you. Okay, so if you'd like to go and take a seat in the area outside, and obviously we'll ask Mr. Clark to leave online as well.
Oh,
sorry.
As the meeting isn't being held confidentially and it's open to the public, can we not sit in the public gallery?
You are witnesses to the hearing, so the general principle would be that you don't remain in the meeting. Obviously, as members of the public, we can't, if you wanted to attend, you could. However, the panel could take that into consideration when they then consider the validity of your evidence. That makes sense.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair. As you know, I'm on holiday and I'm on remote. I wonder how I will know when I'm able to come back in, please.
Mr. Clark, if we could possibly get Councillor Jones to drop you a quick message.
Yes, that's entirely acceptable. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
And I'll have to switch my phone back on, but put it on silent then.
Councillor Jones. Can I now ask the Ombudsman's representative to make the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So if this works for the committee, I'll present the report, take you through the facts up the first set of disputed facts, and then pause there for Councillor Jones to make his submissions, and then when we move to that stage for the last set of disputed facts, will that work? Yeah.
Can I just make one clarification to just ask Councillor Jones, can you hear okay, or would you like the Ombudsman's representative to speak a little louder, because it is quite quiet?
If I turn my hearing up any further, it gets distorted.
Yeah.
I was wondering if it was a hearing review. Okay, I've just turned it just a touch now, so you sounded fine there then. I can adjust this slightly.
I'm just conscious that it's coming over quite quietly, so if I could, I'll ask you to speak up and we try that. And
I'll try my best, because we're so far from the microphone. It's quite challenging. Thank you. How's that, Councillor Jones? Can you hear me? Yeah, and I'll try and lean in. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the committee will have read the Ombudsman's report, so I won't obviously repeat it in full, but I will draw to your attention some of the key facts, undisputed facts, and then move on, as I've already suggested, to discuss the first set of disputed facts. So whilst the member, Councillor Jones, has disputed many statements made in the Ombudsman's report, I will only refer to those that go to the heart of those breaches that and the facts and the breaches that you're here to consider today. As you will have seen from the Ombudsman's report, we received a complaint from Mr. Daly, the son of Councillor Farr, and Miss Grabham, who is now the former clerk to the Town Council, alleging that Councillor Jones had failed to comply with the Porthcawl Town Council's Code of Conduct for elected members. Those complaints were received on the 23rd and 31st of May 2022, respectively. This case centres on whether Councillor Jones had used a term which was perceived as racial and disrespectful language towards another member of the Town Council on social media, and whether as alleged in the second complaint, Councillor Jones had used disrespectful language towards the former clerk on social media also. So in terms of the undisputed facts, page 27 of the Ombudsman's report sets out the undisputed facts. What I will do is just raise some of the pertinent and relevant ones here for you today. So you'll see from that section that Councillor Jones has been a member of the Town Council since 2012. Councillor Jones served as Mayor of the Town Council and was the former clerk's line manager from 2020 to 2021. Councillor Jones received training on the Code of Conduct in 2020 and again in 2023, and he received specific training through the Town Council on social media use and activity. Councillor Nilo Farr is also a member of the Town Council. She is also a member of Bridgend County Borough Council. At the time of the events, Councillor Farr was BCBC, sorry, forgive my abbreviation, Cabinet Member for Regeneration, with a portfolio that included local development in Porthcawl. The Town Council has been subject to investigation by the police and an in-depth audit by Audit Wales, which we understand is still ongoing. So, on or around the 19th of May 2022, Councillor Jones posted comments on a Facebook page, a community Facebook page, which said, I with you here, and then the name has been taken out. We have a greedy council and chimps as borough members, who are now part of the establishment and will do BCBC's bidding no matter what. And a second post in and around that time was posted saying PTC has become as transparent as North Korea, run by a clerk who is a control freak. Then, on the 21st of May, Councillor Jones sent a text to Councillor Farr about the first post that I read out to you, which Councillor Farr responded to. Subsequently, Councillor Jones removed his comment referring to chimps. We understand that this was within a couple of days of it being posted. Councillor Jones did not remove his comment about the Town Council and the former clerk. The Council discussed unacceptable and insulting comments on social media at a meeting of the Porthcawl Town Council on the 30th of May 2022. Councillor Jones advised during that meeting that he would make no apology in relation to that comment on social media. So for the purpose of the hearing today, the matters listed on page 26 of the bundle are the items which remain in dispute. So the first of those two disputed facts that have been dealt with together by the Ombudsman's report. So the first one reads, was Councillor Jones's comment about chimps directed at Councillor Farr? And the second one is, was Councillor Jones's reference to chimps a text in error? So the Ombudsman's analysis is set out in detail in paragraphs 70 to 76, but I will just, if I may, highlight some of the key points from within there to you. So our submissions are that the nature and the context of the exchanges encompass, in relation to Councillor, the ones that are purported to be in relation to Councillor Farr, the chimp comment, they, when read as in totality, encompass a discussion about a judgment or some sort of development matter happening in the locality. Councillor Jones told us in interview that Councillor Farr's portfolio included a local development proposal at that time, which he was against. Councillor Jones again told us that Councillor Farr has come in and said she supports it. And in interview, he said, to quote him, "Chump would have been correct because she was actually just followed on as she's being easily led." Councillor Jones said he meant to use the word chumps rather than chimps. He said that it was an honest mistake and not intentional, and the predictive text had auto-corrected the word chumps to chimp. Councillor Jones says, by his definition, chump means somebody that is easily led. When challenged by Mr. Daly shortly after that post was made, Councillor Jones said, by way of response, that he had directed the comment at Councillors Hill and Chegwin, two other members of Porthcawl Town Council. Neither of them were borough councillors at the relevant time, and Councillor Jones later went on to say in interview to us that Councillor Farr was easily led, implying that she was a chump, and confirming a direction at her. Councillor Jones did not raise the possibility that the word had altered through predictive text when challenged by Mr. Daly at that time. Despite pointing out predictive errors or seeking to advise him or indeed Councillor Farr in the communications that followed. So I think the point I'm trying to make there is that the prospect of it being predictive text, at the relevant time when Councillor Jones was having an exchange with Mr. Daly, he didn't say that word was used by way of predictive text. And in the subsequent messages sent to Councillor Farr, didn't again correct that predictive text was the reason that that word had been used. We would submit that the defence, the predictive text, was responsible for changing the word from chump to chimps, was raised following the start of the investigation, and in fact it was first referenced when Councillor Jones was interviewed in November 2023, the investigation having started in June 2022. As you will see within the Ombudsman's analysis on the disputed facts, the Ombudsman did not consider that it was a plausible or probable explanation for the use of the word in terms of the mutation by predictive text. The conditional apology proffered, we would suggest, by Councillor Jones to Councillor Farr, which is referenced again on page 20 of the report, again doesn't refer to the predictive text error. It just talks about the messaging that was sent. It doesn't seek to correct that word was never intended to be used. So on balance, the Ombudsman was persuaded that these words were used in reference to Councillor Farr and that they were not a product of predictive text. Are you managing to hear me okay? Yeah.
I am, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, very well. I keep that well done.
Okay, so I'll move on to the next disputed fact now, which relates to the social media comment about the clerk and the council. So the disputed fact as set out in the report is, was Councillor Jones's post about the town council and the former clerk inappropriate or uncalled for? So the Ombudsman's analysis again is set out in detail in paragraphs 77 to 79, but again I'll take the opportunity to highlight some of the key points for you. So the former clerk took on her new role at a difficult time in the town council. It is clear from the evidence that some members of the council, and by his own admission, Councillor Jones, were unhappy with the internal audit and the published report that was produced around that time in 21-22. Still new to the council, the former clerk was required to assist Audit Wales and the police on behalf of the town council with their inquiries. The former clerk said that Councillor Jones's comment on social media failed to understand or recognise the difficult position that she was in at that time in terms of what she could disclose to others, and felt that it questioned her integrity, character and morale. A further disputed fact set out in that section is that Councillor Jones expressed his opinion about the former clerk in a very public forum without, it would appear, any consideration for the impact upon her, the council or the role of member, which is contrary to the officer member protocol, which you'll find at page 374 of the bundle. It's worthy of note that Councillor Jones was a quasi-employer of the clerk at that time also. Taking all of those factors into consideration, the Ombudsman felt that comparing the town clerk and the town council firstly to North Korea, and then stating that the former clerk was a control freak, was disrespectful, inappropriate and unnecessary. So, Chair, I've now reached the stage where I would come on to the submissions about whether Councillor Jones has complied with requirements of our investigation. So I'll pause there so that you can determine how best to proceed from here on. Thank you.
Sorry, I wonder whether we hear now from Councillor Jones in relation to these two issues, and then we can separate the third issue and come on to that separately when you're ready to have the witnesses.
Councillor Jones?
Chair, well, I have a statement to read out on both issues, if I can, please. That's fine. Can I stand up when I'm reading?
Yeah,
Is there an issue with that?
Yeah, you can stand up.
Okay,
Could we take a copy of it once you finish?
You can have these copies, that's fine.
Lovely.
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
Yes. Right, I'll do the one for Councillor Farr first, okay? Right. I take this matter very seriously, and I can say again that the social media post complained about was caused by autocorrect, and that I was using my phone. At no time did I mention Councillor Farr, and it was never my intention for the post to be in any way attributed to her. Unfortunately, I didn't notice the mistake at the time, but I did clarify and remove the post once it was brought to my attention. I also telephoned Councillor Farr's mobile, which went to answer phone. I did not leave a message, but sent text messages to her to reassure Councillor Farr and offer to post an apology if she wanted to which she respected and declined. At no time did a telephone conversation take place with Councillor Farr over this matter. I'm now very cautious with regard to social media and social media activity. I believe that even though the complaint was submitted, I have a good working relationship with Councillor Farr, and where personal political matters are kept separate. And I have responded to a request for help on many times since the post. It can be seen from the post that Mr. Daly also suffered the autocorrect curse in his exchange with me. And this is when I say the Ombudsman are not right in saying what they just said. Councillor Daly's post also autocorrected in that conversation. You just said, no, it didn't. And that is also in the pack as well. The actual posts, they're in there. And I post them to you. You've had them. I was informed by the Ombudsman that the Facebook complaint, Facebook post complained about by Mr. Daly was not considered to be racist and was not going to be investigated. I was later told by the Ombudsman that new evidence had been submitted and that the complaint was now going to be investigated. And then I was told by the Ombudsman was referring the matter to the Standards Committee, deciding that on the balance of probabilities that I breached the Code of Conduct. The new evidence relies very strongly on an untrue allegation that Councillor Farr is the only member of both Porthcawl Town Council and a BCBC member. This statement is made by Councillor Farr in a personal statement. Mr. Daly in his evidence and in the Ombudsman's investigative statement. However, Councillor Farr was elected to both authorities on May the 5th, 2022, and Councillor Pratt was also elected on the date on both authorities. So therefore, Councillor Farr is not the only BCBC and Porthcawl Town member. Town Councillor. I strongly refute the allegation that there has been any incident between myself or my family and Councillor Farr in the last 35 years. In fact, I cannot recall any conversation at all between Councillor Farr and myself, other than 35 years ago, when both our sons were attending the same school, and there was a squabble between the two children. And that's what Councillor Farr's partner at the time actually grabbed hold of my son. Not long after that, Councillor Farr's children used to come across my house on a regular basis to play with my own children. And at my house. Councillor Farr mentions the Town Council meeting of the 22nd, 30th May 22nd, when an item to consider the social media was listed on the agenda. I was expecting to discuss something to do with the social media policy. However, without any prior notice, I was suddenly subjected to an acquisition and subjected to a string of accusations by the then Mayor, Councillor Chegwin, who made no effort to hide his predetermination in this matter. Former Town Clerk, Mrs. Grabban, and the Mayor, Councillor Chegwin, completely dominated this item, yet because the discussion was about Councillor Farr and former Town Clerk, Mrs. Grabban, neither should have remained in the meeting or spoke on the matter, as they both had a personal and prejudicial interest. Not only that, but Councillor Farr voted on this item. Indeed, there was no evidence of any complaint having been made to the Town Council, either by the complainant, Mr. Daly.
Councillor Jones, is this actually relevant to the case that we're having now?
Well, yes, I think it is, because Councillor Farr did not make a complaint to Porthcawl Town Council, and neither did his son.
Councillor Jones, obviously this hearing today is looking at the complaints that have been made about you. They can't consider complaints that may have been or should have been made about any other body. So at the moment, we're just looking at the disputed facts, and they are essentially, was the post directed at Councillor Farr, and was the word chimp used inadvertently because it was predictive text? Right. So they are the only issues you need to consider for those. Right. And then the second one then are the issues relating to the Town Clerk.
The word chimp actually mutated through autocorrect, the word chump actually mutated to the word chimp through autocorrect. And as I said just now, also in the same post, the complainant's post also mutated. And that is in the evidence, which has not been mentioned by the Ombudsman here today.
Councillor Jones, can you direct...
Can you address it to the panel, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Address it to the panel, not directly to the Ombudsman.
The complainant's post also mutated at the same time. One of his posts also mutated. And the Ombudsman is saying that that couldn't happen or it's very low. And since then, some of Councillor Farr's posts have mutated on another thread. It does happen. Posts do mutate because of autocorrect. And it's not low, it is quite high. I believe I put into the pack where there's an online petition to ban the autocorrect because there's over 1 million complaints about autocorrect. So autocorrect does happen, and it happens to all of us. It's just this time, unfortunately, it's happened to me and it's changed the word, which makes it sound racist. It was not intended. It was just the word chump, which is actually mean easily led. And that's all I can say for that.
Thank you, Councillor.
And can I read one about former clerk?
If I can just remind you of the disputed facts, and then perhaps you can tailor your response just to pick up those. So the disputed facts are, was your post about the Town Council and the former clerk, was it inappropriate and uncalled for? And then secondly, it's just that one. The other one is what we're going to come on to later.
No, I don't believe it was inappropriate. And again, I'm going to start reading the statement because it is in my statement this year. And you can have copies of these straight away. Okay? The post arose because of my total frustration with trying to obtain financial and other information from the Town Council and the former Town Clerk, Mrs. Grabban, that I was entitled to. She was refusing to give me information. How can I respond to anything as a councillor if I can't get this information. Right, I was being asked questions by the residents of East Central who I'm elected to represent, and I couldn't get any answers off Clark. I believe it's my duty in the public interest to speak out publicly without fear about the maladministration and misconduct of the town clerk, former town clerk, I should say, sorry, because of my experience and the amount of evidence I have. I have shared this with the Ombudsman, and I have tried every means possible through procedures and been repeatedly and constantly blocked by councillors and the staff, and that included the clerk. Right. I'm aware that I risk being sanctioned by this committee, and I feel that I have no alternative but to bring my concerns about the wrongdoing and possible fraud as part of the council. And I mean that realistically. Fraud. There was £170,000 which was raised in the public.
Councillor Jones, can I remind you, this is actually not relevant to what we're talking about?
I believe it's relevant because this is what it was about. I was asking where this money had gone. For me, financial matters are relevant. And these are the questions I was asking of the clerk, and I was not getting the answers.
Councillor Jones, what's relevant today is this committee are considering whether you breached the code of conduct for members. So they are only here to determine actions taken by yourself and mitigation in relation to those actions.
Yeah.
They can't consider any other actions, and you'd have to follow the other appropriate routes to deal with those.
The actions I took here on that line was because of the actions of the clerk. So these are mitigating circumstances.
But we're not at the stage yet where we deal with mitigation. At the moment, we're just dealing with facts.
Well,
was the post inappropriate?
Well, the facts are then that the clerk was withholding information from me. The council was being very secretive. And when I was asking for information, she was refusing to give it to me. And then I'll have to read the statement out at the end of that. I do not believe I've broken the code of conduct because I was trying my best to get information, to answer questions to members of the public, and I was not getting the information I required. And I don't believe you brought up the one about the sharing of information. Okay, thank you.
And they get the opportunity to question each other.
So can I just ask now if the panel have got any questions they want to ask either the Ombudsman's representative or Councillor Jones? Yep, okay.
I've got a few questions for the Ombudsman here. I've read the post that Councillor Jones made, and there's no doubt that the post said a greedy council and chimps as borough members. That's a post in isolation. Do you have the whole thread for me to look at?
The information that we've been able to obtain is within the pack and within the report. Forgive me, if you give me a few minutes, I'll be able to direct you to the relevant posts, but between the parties, we were only able to get the screenshots, and Councillor Jones gave us some further context, and we have what we have, and that's yeah, so no.
So, and I have a number of questions on this matter. So, you don't know whether that was one post in a thread of 10 comments, 100 comments, and you have no context for that. It's just a comment in a thread of indeterminate length.
If you just give me 2 minutes, I will be able to direct you to the submissions made by Councillor Jones to the Ombudsman, which give us a greater sense of...
I'm happy to wait 2 minutes for you to find out, but I'd also like you to answer the question I'm asking, is do you have an understanding yourself as a presenter of information as to what is the context of that? Because I can't see it in the pack. So do you have the whole thread for the committee to look at?
So we don't have the start to finish of the thread because that wasn't available. That, you know, for whatever reason, this community page, there was some editing and administration that happened. So we don't have the entire start to finish of the thread, but Councillor Jones very kindly was able to give us some of the contextual stuff around it, and that's what I will be able to find for you.
So my second point, Chair, is coming on to that. It talks as chimps, plural, and members, plural, but yet you've concluded that it's directed at a single person. It doesn't say we have a chimp as a borough member. It says we have chimps as borough members. So how can you be certain that that was directed to Councillor Farr and not, for example, at myself? So how can you be certain, given that it says a greedy council, which we put to one side, and chimps, plural, as borough members, plural, how can you take a plural statement and turn it into and interpret that as being directed at an individual without the context of the thread, which you haven't seen?
So we had the complaint came to us, and the interpretation of the messages has been, it's how those messages have been received by the people seeing them, and Councillor Farr felt it was directed at her. The complainant felt it was directed at her. When we looked at the information available in the round, including information that Councillor Jones gave us in the interview in terms of who it could have been directed at, on the balance, rather than certainty, on the balance of probabilities, we came to the conclusion that it appeared that it was, as one of the only recently elected BC members to PTC, that the message could reasonably be interpreted on balance to be referencing Councillor Farr.
So can I, and again, sorry, Chair, I've got a number of questions because I think it's really important. So you didn't consider the possibility that, for example, it could have referred to Councillor Pratt, who is also a recently elected twin-hatted member of Porthcawl Town Council, and who didn't consider the possibility, without the context of the longer thread, that it could have been wider newly elected borough members who may not be twin-hatted.
But it only referred to borough members on the PTC, so it was
Could
clear.
you direct me to that, please? Because I couldn't see that in the pack, where that's common, because the screenshot is the screenshot in isolation, as you've just admitted. So can you direct me to where the screenshot says borough members on Porthcawl Town Council? Because it doesn't say that in the screenshot. And without the wider thread, I'm struggling to see how that you can draw that conclusion.
One of the undisputed facts that Councillor Jones has accepted is that that message referred to PTC business, and the message references borough members. It's not talking about broader borough members in any other council. It's related to PTC and borough members. That's an undisputed fact that came through from the interview.
Thanks for that clarification. So it could be reasonable on the balance of probabilities for someone else to conclude that it does in fact refer to Councillor Pratt and Councillor Farr, because there is no certainty, as you say.
An interpretation that the committee is open to take.
Thank you. Got another couple of questions then on the autocorrect. How have you concluded that it wasn't a result of autocorrect? Because my kids laugh at me all the time at the jumbled messages that I send them. And as autocorrect is a common, and forgive me if I'm asking these pointy questions, because the stakes are quite high for the member. How can you satisfy me that it's not as a result of autocorrect?
So, I'll direct you to the relevant paragraph in the report. So the Ombudsman, in assessing the credibility and plausibility of the defence put forward by Councillor Jones, tested the likelihood of that word mutating by way of predictive text on a number of different devices, mobile phone devices, to see if it was something that commonly happened. And on balance, again, the Ombudsman did not feel that was. We accept that predictive text happens, and we accept that, obviously there is a predictive text error, but on issuing Mr. Daly's post, but from testing ourselves, the likelihood we feel of chump mutating to chimp, on the balance of probabilities, was unlikely.
Sorry.
So obviously, that it's for yourselves to test if you feel that's
Thanks.
appropriate.
So the Ombudsman's Office tested chump mutating into chimp on various devices, and you failed to replicate that.
We tried.
And it's not in the pack, is it? Did you say that in the pack that you tested
we
that?
we address it in paragraph 76 of the
Thanks.
report.
Did you also, you referred there that that the complainants and the defendant, if that's the right term, provided evidence of other mutations. I think it was Mr. Daly's text had mutated, and I think Councillor Farr's text had mutated from Llanelli to something else. Did you test those to see whether those would be replicated on your devices in the Ombudsman Office as well?
No, we didn't.
So it is possible, therefore, that it's dependent on the device.
Words mutate.
And it's dependent on the
yeah.
device rather than...
Yeah.
Thank you. No further questions.
Yeah, so I've got two questions I'd like to clarify. Just for me to be clear on it, the complainant, was the complainant Councillor Farr or was the complainant Councillor Farr's son?
Sorry, Mr. Daly. So for the complaint number 1, Councillor Farr's son was the complainant.
Okay, so and a second different question then is, the group that the message was posted in, was Councillor Farr a member of the group so that she could see the post, or was it brought to her attention by somebody else?
If I direct you to Councillor Farr's statement, I believe it was brought to her attention, but yeah, thank you.
Can I answer? Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I answer that question for you? I have that answer here. The actual post was directed to Councillor Farr by a member of the Standards Committee, Councillor Graham Walter. And he actually, and it's also this is in Councillor Farr's statement of truth, where he actually turned around and said that I called her a monkey. And I think that is wrong. That is in the statement here, which I would like you to read after. But that's how Councillor Farr heard about it. It was from Councillor Graham Walter, who actually sent a message saying I called her a monkey. And that was from Councillor Farr's statement of truth.
Thank you. Can I ask now if either Councillor Jones first, you got any further questions you would like to either ask any questions that you would like to ask the Ombudsman Office in relationship to what we've just heard?
Yes, I would. I'd like to know how you've omitted to say now earlier, okay, when I asked you. You omitted the part about the posts, and you've omitted them. Why? Can I ask you, why have you omitted them?
Sorry, Councillor Jones, I don't understand what we've omitted.
The posts, okay, I said about, I said that there's a post, oh, sorry, I'd like to stand up with this, okay. I said about the post. The post, it was a mistake, okay? It wasn't a mistake, it was autocorrect. And you've actually omitted to say that in here, in your statement as well, that no, it couldn't have been autocorrect. You were saying the probability was low. I pointed out to you that it's happened to the complainant, it's happened to Councillor Farr, and it's probably happened to yourself. But you just decided that it can't happen. I'm sorry.
Would you like to reply?
In terms of response, I suppose it's similar really to what we've already discussed. So, you know, the Ombudsman's position is that autocorrect is possible, you know, it happens, but we think in this case, in this particular word, it wasn't probable. If you look at the wider context, the predictive text argument came out a lot much further in the future than this event happening. Mr. Daly challenged Councillor Jones, and there was a clear, a predictive text error within his message. That would have been a perfect opportunity for Councillor Jones to have said, my text also mutated had that happened. That didn't happen. he didn't refer to, there's no sort of continuity of this argument of predictive text coming through until a year later when we came to interview. That's when the possibility that the word chimp was not an intentional word came out as a possibility and a defence. So we would urge the committee to look definitely at the posts and the possibility and probability of predictive texting, but there are the broader circumstances as well, which are, you know, the looking at Councillor Jones's approach and interactions with Mr Daly post and with Councillor Farr after the post, and then the timing of the defence, if you like. So it's that whole context that we would urge the committee to take into consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Just one other thing. I did actually point out to the complainant, of Mr Daly, that his post had mutated and auto-corrected, the same as mine. And that was just 3 posts down within the thread.
But his post, you didn't reference your post, Councillor, with all due respect.
If we move on to the next item now, I think, Chair, probably the appropriate way to do it would be for the Ombudsman to present their submissions in relation to this item, and then Councillor Jones can call in his witnesses at that stage.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. So the final disputed fact is whether Councillor Jones failed to comply with the Ombudsman's Office requests in connection with the investigations. So the Ombudsman's analysis on this disputed fact set out in paragraphs 80 to 83 of the report, but again I will highlight some of the key points for you. So Councillor Jones was repeatedly informed that Ombudsman investigations are required under the relevant legislation to be conducted in communication with him at the start of the investigation, when the evidence was shared with him in advance of interview, and when the draft report was sent to him for consideration and comment. The need for confidentiality and the reasons for that were clearly explained in the cover correspondence sent to him. Councillor Jones was asked at the start of the investigation to inform the investigator if there were any witnesses that he wished for us to contact at the start of the investigation, but Councillor Jones did not avail of this option. One of the unsigned letters of support that you will hear one of the witnesses speak to today starts, and I believe Jeannie Monk's, there's a sentence in that first opening paragraph that says, "I have been given to understand that Councillor Jones has been accused of bullying in council meetings a fellow councillor, namely Councillor Neil Farr." In her statement, paragraph 11 of her statement, Councillor Farr makes reference to attending meetings and said that Councillor Jones and his group had made her feel intimidated. The details of the complaint, insofar as it relates to Councillor Farr, until today was not something that was in the public domain. One aspect of the complaint was the allegation of bullying through the social media post. The information about Councillor Farr's feelings when attending meetings was not in the public domain, again, until today. It was in the bundle that we shared with Councillor Jones at the draft report stage. The social media posts referred to during the meeting of the 30th of May 2022 were those that related to the former clerk, the North Korea control freak social media post, and not the post related or that has been perceived to be directed at Councillor Farr or indeed any other members. Taking all of those facts into consideration, the Ombudsman considered, on balance, it appeared that Councillor Jones had failed to comply with the direction of privacy in relation to our investigations by disclosing details of either the complaint, the investigation and or documents that had been shared with him with third parties, persons outside the investigation, namely Jeannie Monks in particular, because of that reference in her statement, in her letter.
Councillor Jones, do you want to say anything?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Well, I refute everything you just said there, because neither of the witnesses have seen these files. They've seen them from now today, but they've never actually seen inside them. And I think you'll find that from what Miss Monks will have to say, because she is a councillor, or former councillor, and a former councillor and colleague of Councillor Farr, so she knew what was going on. From there, not from me. Thank you, Chair.
Can I ask if any members of the committee have any questions that they want to ask? Councillor Thomas.
So a question for me, I guess, is that statement, or the first element you referenced that is potentially in the Ombudsman statement on there, that's a relatively small comment on a relatively small section of the report referencing bullying. From my initial reading of it, I didn't appreciate the allegation against the councillor was of bullying. I thought it was about bringing the office into disrepute, and for item 4C must show respect to others. Was bullying actually mentioned in the Ombudsman's report for the Councillor Farr element?
Sorry, I just had to seek clarification on that point. So yes, it's the connection has been made on the basis of what is in the connection between Councillor Farr's statement and her description of the way that she has been made to feel, and that's something that wasn't in the public domain. So yeah, we appreciate.
Sorry, if I could just clarify that. So, with the fact that the bullying isn't necessarily mentioned in there, is there an assumption that that might have been presumed from the council meeting or from the members of the council, as opposed to being disclosed directly from the documentation?
The question.
So the assumption is being made that the comment around bullying has been drawn from the documentation, but is there a possibility that that term was more broadly used by the town council and the members in the council?
In the context of Councillor Farr's?
I guess my question, if I try to rephrase it, is just the fact of the use of the word bullying. How do you determine that is derived directly from the Ombudsman's report, as opposed to conversations, etc., that fellow councillors are having about the issue? Because obviously the issue was clearly discussed in the council meeting. So.
Okay, I think I follow now. So when Councillor Jones was notified that the Ombudsman was starting an investigation, we map out which paragraphs of the code, and the paragraph related to bullying was referenced. So he knows what the complaint is, and he knows what parameters are being looked at. When we shared the draft report with Councillor Jones, it in essence, sort of summarises our position on whether we find in relation to the breaches that were investigated. And our provisional decision was that there had been bullying of Councillor Farr on the basis of all of the evidence taken into consideration. So that provisional conclusion was reached in our draft report. And to the best of our knowledge, because this is a private investigation, it was only after that draft report we received this letter that references him being accused of bullying, and our provisional conclusion had been that there had been bullying. And then we obviously made the connection back then with the statement also.
So sorry, it's based on the timings of the timings of the Okay, thank you.
If I can just clarify as well, you made reference to some examples that were in Councillor Farr's statement that were then referenced in the letter you received. Can you just clarify what they were?
Yep, so there is this, I think it's right at the very end, if my knowledge serves me correctly, of Councillor Farr's statement. She talks about feeling intimidated when at meetings. That's the connection to council meetings, because obviously this subject matter of this referral are the social media posts, but Councillor Farr said she also feels intimidated in meetings. Miss Monks's letter said, we understand that he's been accused of bullying in meetings. So that's where that connection came from, that Councillor Farr had referenced meetings. We had referenced in the draft report that there was an allegation of bullying and that information was then imparted in this letter. Does that help? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I get the link you've made, but there does seem to be an assumption there that it would only be Councillor Jones who would have leaked that. Did you consider the possibility that for reasons that are unclear, Councillor Farr told someone what had been concluded, or indeed I don't know whether at what stage, as you said, it was in the preliminary findings, whether it could have come through the Porthcawl Town Council, or indeed your own office, because your own office is based in Pencoed, and you recently had an employee leave your employ. So have you ruled out that the leak could have come, if indeed there was a leak, could have come from another source? Because I don't think, if you live in this area, there have been quite lurid social media posts about politics generally, and bullying is a common theme, whether it's Porthcawl or whether it's Bridgend or Maesteg, anyway, it seems to come up. So knowing that there was a complaint knocking around, it wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility that for political reasons that it was just put out there that a councillor was being accused of bullying. I've seen it in other circumstances. So how have you narrowed it down to the fact that it's Councillor Jones and not another source?
Thank you, Councillor. So firstly, our provisional findings are only shared with the accused member. They wouldn't have been shared with Councillor Farr, and when we approach witnesses and obtain witness evidence, witnesses are again advised about the importance of our investigations being held in confidence and in private. So that conversation would have happened with Councillor Farr, who would have also been reminded of the responsibility to comply with the Ombudsman's requests in relation to paragraph 6.2 of the code. We will obviously hear from Miss Monks today as to whether, how she came about this information, but also Miss Monks provided this letter with Councillor Jones's comments on draft report. They came in at the same time, via Councillor Jones. So on balance, it would appear to the Ombudsman that Councillor Jones disclosed this information. And in terms of your suggestion of leaks within our office, there is no evidence to suggest that has happened. So, but we will hear from Miss Monks as to how she came about the information. So.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. This accusation of bullying and intimidation. If I was bullying Councillor Farr and intimidating her, why would she then give me her phone number, her house address, home address, to deliver leaflets with her? And then she would then drop any leaflets left over. She would come to my house and drop them at my house. Does that sound like someone who is actually intimidating or bullying someone? No. That's all I would. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Jones, again, can I ask you to direct your comments to the committee and not to the Ombudsman officers?
I'm sorry. I will do, yes. Would you like to say it again? Did you hear me? Okay, thank you.
Would you like to call your witnesses?
Yes, please, Chair. I'd like to call in Ms. Jeannie Monks.
Okay. Thank you. Now we're going to give Councillor Jones opportunity to ask you questions relevant and pertinent to what we're discussing.
If I can just clarify, the issue we are considering at the moment is the possible disclosure of information by Councillor Jones. So Councillor Jones, if you can keep your questioning around that. So if you can ask the questions, and then obviously the Ombudsman will be given the opportunity to question the witness as well.
And I can still start, is that okay, Chair?
Yeah, by all means.
Ms. Monks, I only have really two questions for you. Have you seen this book before?
No.
Have you seen that one before?
No.
And you've not seen inside them?
No.
Have I disclosed anything from these to you?
Not as far as I know.
That's the only question I need to ask. Thank you, Chair.
Can I just ask, Ms. Monk, if you use a microphone when you reply so that everybody can hear clearly? Thank you. Ombudsman's representative now like to ask the witness some questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Miss Monks, if you bear with me a second. Within the bundle at page 704, I'm sorry you haven't got a copy of it. There is a letter of the 15th of March 2024 that was submitted to our office with a bundle of papers from Councillor Jones. So it purports to be a letter from yourself. There's no sort of actual signature on it. Do you recall giving Councillor Jones a letter to send to our office in March of this year? To...
Can I just remind you, can you use your microphone,
Sorry.
please?
Sorry, I keep forgetting. I didn't.
Sorry.
As far as I remember, I emailed it. I didn't give it to Councillor Jones.
Or emailed it where, sorry?
Where or?
Yeah, where? To whom?
I believe it was to the Ombudsman.
That doesn't accord with our records. It came with Councillor Jones's submission.
Oh,
Together in the same pack.
I don't
with
remember the
Councillor...
details around it at the time, to be honest.
Okay, no problem. So, are you confident that the letter that I have in this bundle now, sorry, I haven't got a clean copy, is the same letter that you
I can't say
in
that because I
relation to-
can't see it, can I?
It's
Bear with me.
page 704, 708. Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, Kay. Yeah, that's the one.
Fabulous, thank you.
Did you want that back?
So if I could just direct you to the second sentence in that first paragraph, which reads, I have been given to understand that Councillor Jones has been accused of bullying in council meetings a fellow councillor, namely Councillor Nilo Farr.
Yeah.
Can I ask how you became aware of that?
I was a councillor at the time, so I was privy to how Councillor Farr behaved towards Councillor Jones.
So, sorry, in terms of Councillor Farr's behaviour towards Councillor Jones?
She was very... How can I explain this? She was very negative towards him, and every time he presented an opinion on anything, she would always sort of kind of undermine him.
So how did you know that Councillor Jones had been accused of bullying of her?
Because he told me.
He told you. When did he tell you?
Not long before I wrote that.
Okay. And can I ask why you wrote this letter?
Do you want me to give you some background?
No, just why you decided...
Well, the background is why I wrote the letter.
Okay, well, I'll retract, because
I sat on council as a Labour, I was elected as a Labour candidate when I sat on Porthcawl Town Council.
Sorry, so, I think because we're just talking about the disclosure of information, maybe my question is misdirected, so can I retract that question?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. Okay, so you've said that Councillor Jones told you that he'd been accused of bullying.
Yeah.
Shortly before this letter was written.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I have no further questions.
Any of the... No? Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would just like to ask one rhetorical question. At council, did you ever see me as bullying any councillor there, including Councillor Farr?
Is this...
This is relevant because she's accusing me of bullying her at council.
It's not relevant as far as this is concerned.
In
duty to...
Okay, thank you. Right.
If I can just ask all members here if they've got anything else they wish to say on this part of the proceedings before we actually retire to consider. Certainly.
Thank you. So, with regard to the disclosure, the allegation is that the fact that Councillor Jones was under investigation being disclosed. Sorry, let's start again. So the allegation is that he disclosed that he was under investigation, as opposed to the details of that. Of the details of that investigation, if that makes sense.
So, one of the details being that there was an allegation of bullying against him. Yeah.
Councillor Thomas?
Sorry, if I can just ask one question back on one of the previous issues was, there were some comments made that the Ombudsman's initial investigation was that there was not a need to proceed any further, and then that was then appealed, and the Ombudsman decided to investigate on basis of new evidence. That was the commentary, I think, yeah. Can you just explain what the new evidence was?
Of course. So our processes are, when we first receive a complaint, we assess it against the two-stage test. The first stage of that test is there evidence of the behaviour complained of. The first complaint we received from Mr. Daly, and it's in the bundle, you'll see on the complaint form, was very low on detail. We saw reference to the post chimps, but there was no context provided. So looking at that, we issued a minded to decision, so we didn't reject it. It's part of our process. We say that we write and say, based on what you've given us, you're not giving us enough context or not enough information for us to be able to satisfy ourselves on that stage of the test. So we give that complainant then the opportunity to respond back to us, to provide us with further evidence or information, more contextual information in relation to what they're alleging. So Mr. Daly then came back to us and sent us 2 further emails, which again are in Appendix 1, giving us more context as to why offence perception, what the perception was of the comment. And then following that, we decided to investigate. We assessed again against that 2-stage test, taking into account the evidence provided and the public interest in investigating. So we've never declined to investigate. We wrote out effectively to better understand the complaint that was being made. Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, that's not quite the letter that I received, Chair. The letter I received from the Ombudsman, or email I received from the Ombudsman, said that they would not be investigating.
If it would assist the committee, I do have it. The letter was in the unused evidence schedule, so it could have been called for at any point, but I have copies with me if it would assist the committee to see that letter.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
I'll pick them up.
And so we're picking up. And so we shall retire now to consider and come back. We shall now retire to consider what we've heard and we come back. To us, and we'll deal with each of them in turn. So if we deal with item 66, that's on page 26 of the Ombudsman's report. Point 66 was Councillor Jones' post about chimps directed at Councillor Farr. As a committee, we didn't find the post was not exclusively directed at Councillor Farr on the basis that she wasn't the only twin-hatted BC member that the post references, and the post also references plural in its comment. When alerted to this, Councillor Jones immediately contacted Councillor Farr to clarify his position, which seems to be accepted by Councillor Farr. So that's our verdict on number 66. So the second disputed fact, 67, was Councillor Jones referred to chimps, a texting error? The committee feels that on the basis of probability, we find that it wasn't a texting error. Number 68, was Councillor Jones' post about the town council and the former clerk inappropriate and uncalled for? The committee feels that this fact is proven. The post about the former clerk was unacceptable and inappropriate. 69. Did Councillor Jones fail to comply with my office's request in connection with the investigations? The committee feels that based on the witness evidence, this fact is proven. So on this basis, I'd like now to move on to stage 2, and I call again on the Ombudsman's representative actually to take the next point. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So as set out in the Ombudsman's report, she concluded on balance the evidence in relation to the comment about the clerk and the town council was suggestive that Councillor Jones's conduct was capable of breaching paragraphs 4B, 4C and 61A of the Code. So Paragraph 4b is the requirement to show respect and consideration to others. Paragraph 4c is the requirement not to use bullying behaviour or harass any person. Paragraph 6.1a is the responsibility to not conduct yourself in a manner which could reasonably be regarded as bringing the office of member or indeed the authority into disrepute. In addition, the Ombudsman found that Councillor Jones's actions in sharing the details of the complaint with third parties was capable of breaching paragraph 6.2 of the Code, which is the duty to comply with the request of the Public Services Ombudsman, that request being to maintain confidentiality and ensure that investigations are conducted in private. Appreciating that the committee will be familiar with the papers presented, I will seek to briefly explain why the Ombudsman considers that Councillor Jones has failed to comply these provisions in respect of these two issues. So based on the facts found, the Ombudsman is of the view that the full provisions of the Code are applicable because Councillor Jones was given the impression that he was acting in the role of member and or representative of authority when he made the comments, and then when he was engaged in speaking to Jeannie Monks about the Ombudsman's investigation. So picking up on the second post in relation to the former clerk and the town council, there is no dispute from Councillor Jones that the comment "control freak" was directed at the former clerk. Councillor Jones has sought to defend the use of this phrase by continuing to allege that she was controlling or secretive in her activities as the town clerk. He refused to apologise at the meeting in 2022 and, based on what he said here today, appears to stand by this comment. As I've already said today, Councillor Jones, as a member of the Town Council, is technically a quasi-employer of the former clerk. He was also her designated line manager for a period of time prior to the post. The Ombudsman felt that by saying that the Town Council was becoming like North Korea and that the former clerk was a control freak on social media was disrespectful and a humiliating thing for an employer to do to one of their employees in a public forum. The former clerk, her evidence is within the bundle, and you will see that she says that she found these comments upsetting, unjust, unnecessary, and felt that it questioned her integrity, character, and her role. The choice of words about a member of staff on social media were, in the Ombudsman's view, ill-judged, inappropriate, unnecessary, and capable of breaching the duty and relationship of trust that must exist between Town Council and its employees. The comments were made in a very public forum on a page with wide reach in that community. Reference was also made then in a public meeting in May 2022 to the use of social media, and it was clear that that post or the use of social media referenced problems in the working relationship between the clerk and councillors. If Councillor Jones felt frustrated, and I appreciate that he was because he wasn't getting the information that he received, we would respectfully suggest that there were other ways for him to air his concerns about the conduct of the clerk or the way that the town council was approaching things. I've already alluded today to an officer member protocol that exists in the bundle. That explains how these things should be approached. We respectfully suggest that taking to social media to post of this nature was not the most appropriate way to air concerns of that nature. If I may draw your attention to aspects of the Ombudsman's guidance which are included at page 761 of the bundle, I'll just read some snippets from that. So it outlines that members are expected to afford the public, colleagues, opponents and officers the same courtesy and consideration that they show to others in everyday life. Criticism of opposition ideas and opinion is considered to be part of the political debate, and political comments are not confined just to council meetings. They can extend to social media, for instance, but they should be measured and not be deemed to be highly offensive or outrageous. When considering allegations of bullying behaviour, the Ombudsman will consider both the perspective of the alleged victim and whether the member intended their actions to be bullying. And bullying can be characterised as offensive, intimidating, malicious, insulting or humiliating behaviour. Applying those principles to this case, the comments were considered to be highly offensive and outrageous. The comments relating to the clerk and the town council. Whilst the comments made by Councillor Jones may attract enhanced protection under Article 10 as part of political debate, in reaching her conclusions, the Ombudsman was mindful that those rights need to be balanced against the rights of others. In this case, the former clerk as a non-elected public servant. The jurisprudence on Article 10 rights does not provide clear lines to follow. Every case does turn on its own facts, but it is clear from the relevant case law that we have cited in the report that officers should not be subject to unwarranted comments which may be reputationally damaging or disenable them from carrying out their duties, or indeed undermine public confidence in the administration of the council itself. The Ombudsman was of the view that Councillor Jones's post about the town clerk and the town council, and the former clerk amounted to a gratuitous personal comment about her capabilities and what was going on in the council at that time. Such an action, we would respectfully suggest, has the ability to undermine public confidence in that town council's administration and disenable staff from carrying out their duties. A legitimate aim of any interference with Article 10 rights is to prevent the interference with the rights and reputation of others. For those reasons, the Ombudsman is of the view that Councillor Jones's actions in making that post referencing the town council and the clerk amount to a breach of the paragraphs that I cited at the start, 4B, 4C and 61A. So I'll turn now, if I may, to the last breach set out in paragraphs 103 and 104 of the Ombudsman's report. So based on the fact that the committee has found today in relation to whether Councillor Jones failed to comply with the Ombudsman's instructions to treat the information shared, including what the complaint was about, in strictest confidence, I'll direct you to paragraph 6.2. So 6.2 says that members must comply with any request of Public Services Ombudsman for Wales in connection with an investigation conducted in accordance with the statutory powers. This investigation was conducted in accordance with our powers derived under the Local Government Act 2000. Appreciating that Councillor Jones may have wanted to ensure that character evidence was available, he could have asked the investigator to make the necessary approach and take a statement from these witnesses who potentially had volunteered maybe to support him if he had thought that would be helpful. Any disclosure then about the circumstances of the complaint would have been undertaken by us and within the parameters of the Local Government Act. We suggest that by engaging with Jeannie Monks directly and telling her of the complaint, as we have heard today, that Councillor Jones's actions are suggestive of a breach of paragraph 6.2 in the Ombudsman's view. So those are the breaches that we are inviting the committee to find based on the facts that you have found here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, do you want to respond to anything that you've just heard?
Well, yes, it's the breach itself there then. On the front cover of one of the files, there's a letter there. and it actually says I'm entitled to have an advisor. That's what they are. They were also there to advise me. I have a vision, and you already know this, I have a vision impairment, so I struggle to read things. And the Ombudsman are aware of that, because you spoke to me about it. Okay, I have cataracts, and yes, you do know this, because we spoke about this in our interview. And so I have a vision impairment, and it was very difficult. But they'd never seen the files. I did speak to them, and yes, they were my advisors. I'm entitled to an advisor. How can they advise if they don't know anything about it? To me, it's very obtuse. It's not right. How can I break a conduct if I can't have advisors when they're telling me I can have advisors? You did tell me I can have advisors. You just said it yourself. Is that correct? That is correct. I'm allowed to have advisors. That's what these two ladies were, and also Mike Clark. They are my advisors. They can't advise unless they know what's going on. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Can I just ask the Ombudsman's representative to respond to that, please?
Yes, sorry, Mitch.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, in our correspondence, we do advise that members can liaise with a legal or other advisor. So this is the first time that Jeannie Monks or Angela Hopkin have been that we've been advised that they were his advisors during the process, and that's not something that we were aware of, so thank you.
I think that possibly answers my question, but maybe it's a question to... have you disclosed that the two individuals are your advisors prior to today? Have you at any point explained to the Ombudsman that the two individuals were your advisors?
The letters that were sent to us were portrayed as being character statements. We were never formally advised that they were advisors, and I don't believe that term has been used before today.
Yeah, Councillor Thomas. Oh, so Councillor Williams.
I'll go next. Would someone under investigation be obliged to tell you who their advisors were? And is there a limit on how many advisors they may have?
In practice, people usually do tell us, and in terms of number, again, it's not usually a variety of people, but we don't have a strict view on how many you may have. So it is permissible that you may have different advisors for different aspects, different roles, different assistance that might be needed. But I think the point I tried to make was when Councillor Jones sent us those letters, he did not say, these are my advisors, and they are being, provided with this information. I've told them about the complaint, and obviously you've heard from Jean Monks today that she was told about the complaint.
Thank you. To clarify then, because I don't think you were clear, there's no obligation on someone under investigation to inform you. It may be practice, but there's no obligation for them to do so. And it was your interpretation that they were witnesses, not advisors.
You're correct, yes.
Councillor Thomas?
I guess a question then. So when we talk about the term advisors, is there a requirement for that to be somebody of a legal background or of a learned background, or is it permissible to have any member of the public as an advisor?
We don't have a strict interpretation. It doesn't need to be legally qualified. It's whoever the member needs to support them in what they're doing.
Can I, Chair? Can I just say something?
Yes, Councillor.
You just asked about legal and everything else. Miss Monks is also a former town clerk. She does have some legal situation with that. So.
Kelly?
Thank you. Councillor Jones, when we emailed you about these proceedings, we asked, was you going to be representative, and you represented, and you said no?
That's sorry. That's when Ms. Griffiths, I thought that was for professional legal advice, and that's what I said in the, I could not afford professional legal advice. And that was what I said. These are not professional legal advisors.
No, but I think Mrs. Griffiths also clarified with you that they were coming as witnesses, and you confirmed they were witnesses. Well, no, the advisors and witnesses are completely different.
As I said, I'm sorry, and as I said, Ms. Monks is also a former town clerk, and she does have some legal.
Sorry. So we'll consider this in terms of what has just been said in the context of which you've said it. Thank you. Any other submissions?
Not that I can think of this moment, no. I'm sorry.
The panel have unanimously found that Councillor Jones was breached the following paragraphs: paragraph 4B, 4C, 6(1)A and 6(2) of the Code of Conduct. The post was clearly directed at the clerk, who as an employee of the council had no public method of redress. The comments were disrespectful and aimed at damaging the reputation of the clerk, and the failure to remove the post or apologised caused continued upset to the clerk, which amounted to bullying. The above findings lead the committee to also conclude that the council was brought into disrepute. The comments had the potential to undermine the public's trust and confidence in the council. In relation to paragraph 6(2), the committee found that there had been a breach as Councillor Jones had disclosed the information to his witnesses. The committee didn't accept that the witnesses were acting in a formal capacity as advisors. He had previously said that he hadn't shared information with them and changed this position during the course of the hearing that we've been through this morning. I'd now ask the Ombudsman representative to make submissions as to the sanctions.
Thank you, Chair. So based on the breaches found by the committee here today, it is now for the Standards Committee to determine whether there should be a sanction, and if so, what form that sanction should take. To assist the committee with this decision, I will refer to the Adjudication Panel for Wales' Sanctions Guidance, which is in the agenda pack. The APW Sanctions Guidance sets out the rationale behind the sanctions regime at paragraph 18, which are, in essence, to provide a disciplinary response to an individual member's breach of the code, to place misconduct and an appropriate sanction on public record, to deter future misconduct on the part of the individual and others, to promote a culture of compliance across relevant authorities, and most importantly, to foster public confidence in local democracy. Considering carefully the sanctions guidance in the test in relation to the seriousness of the breach, we would submit that it is clear that the breaches found here today are not of a trivial nature, for the following reasons. There are a number of breaches. You have found four breaches here today, and the nature of the breaches. The Nolan principles include an element that requires members to treat people equally and with respect. This is relevant as to the nature of the breaches found here today because Councillor Jones has been found not to have done so. Another reason influencing the seriousness of the breaches is the actual and potential consequences of any breach for the individual, the wider public and or the council concerned. You'll see from the statement of the former clerk that they detail the consequences that Councillor Jones's comments had upon her. The former clerk said that it contributed to her having to take time off work and subsequently resigning from the council. Another factor to influence the seriousness in the Ombudsman's view is the extent to which the member's actions have or are likely to have brought the role of member or the authority into disrepute. You have found today that that is the case. And disrepute because, again, that principle that members should carry out their duties and show respect and consideration for others has not been followed. So having assessed the seriousness, taking the next stage of the APW's approach, it directs you then to consider whether a sanction is at all appropriate. So on the basis of the seriousness that I have set out, we would respectfully suggest that a sanction is appropriate in these circumstances. We're of the view that no further action or a censure approach would not be appropriate, given the nature, again, and the nature and number of the breaches and the seriousness. APW's guidance says that if a suspension would be appropriate where the seriousness of the breach is such that a time-limited form of response is appropriate to deter such future action and to safeguard the standards to be set by the code, and also to give that reassurance to the public that standards are being upheld at a local level. The circumstances in which a suspension might be appropriate, as set out in the guidance, say that where there's been disrepute found, this has been found today, and where the breach is found would merit a disciplinary response. We would respectfully suggest that in the case of the breaches that you have found, because they relate to the treatment of employees of the council, that they do merit a disciplinary response. The APW's guidance goes on to consider then if there are any relevant aggravating or mitigating factors which would affect the level of sanction to be determined. To assist the committee, I will set out some mitigating and aggravating factors, and I will start with mitigating factors. So Councillor Jones does have a good record of previous service. This incident of misconduct does appear to have been an isolated incident that happened during that period of time. Councillor Jones's comments about the council were at least political expression of an honestly held belief, although they were intemperately and immoderately expressed. Councillor Jones has, in his submissions to the Standards Committee in writing in advance of this hearing, offered a form of conditional apology, albeit late in the day, we would suggest, to anybody that was offended by that post. To Councillor Jones's credit, he has cooperated with the PSOW and with the Standards Committee in this case. And in his written submissions to the Standards Committee, Councillor Jones does appear to acknowledge some acceptance of the need to be more careful when using social media in the future. I turn now to some aggravating factors. Councillor Jones has long and extensive experience. He has been a member of the Town Council since 2012. He served as Mayor and he was the former Clerk's Line Manager, as I have already directed to you earlier in the proceedings. In the Ombudsman's view, Councillor Jones has sought to blame others, and specifically the former Clerk, for his actions. We would suggest deflecting attention from his own behaviour by directing the committee to consider the wider matters related to the running of the council and the administration of it. Councillor Jones has, we would submit, sought in his evidence to discredit the former clerk rather than focusing on the specific principles at hand. Councillor Jones has, in our view, shown little insight or understanding of the misconduct and any consequence, such as undermining the public's confidence in elected officials and the administration of his town council. Whilst Councillor Jones has now proffered a form of apology for any offence caused by his comments, we would respectfully suggest that the apology does not demonstrate an acceptance of the consequence of his actions in the context of the code. And finally, another aggravating factor is the finding of disrepute. So in all of those circumstances, we are of the view that a suspension in the middle to lower range of that which is available to the committee would be in line with the APW sanctions guidance and would be appropriate to uphold standards of conduct in public life and maintain confidence in local democracy. Suspensions of 1 month or lower have been found to be ineffective. If you are minded to consider suspending Councillor Jones from office, consideration must also be given to Article 10 of the Human Rights Act. A legitimate aim of any interference with Article 10 rights is to prevent the interference with the rights and reputation of others. Therefore, given that a breach has been proven in respect of the comments related to the former clerk, it is suggested that any sanction would be a proportionate interference with Councillor Jones's Article 10 rights in order to protect the rights of others, namely the clerk. By extension, when considering whether a sanction is appropriate, we also need to consider the extension of Article 10 considerations to a member's right to represent constituents, as referred to in the Heasom judgment. That judgment said that there is a need to balance the seriousness of the breaches identified with the necessity to ensure that the public have the right to local representation and then the need to maintain public confidence. We would respectfully submit that the Town Council has several other members that the public could approach in the event that Councillor Jones was suspended and therefore no longer not able to conduct his duties for a period of time. We would suggest that no prejudice would be caused to the public if Councillor Jones would not be available. Those are the submissions on behalf of the Ombudsman. I do have some previous cases considered by other standards committees, again if you want some case examples of similar behaviour, and I can share those with the committee. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Obviously, I'd note there's a lot to take in a couple of minutes, so I'd like to obviously offer you the opportunity, if you wanted to have 5-10 minutes to gather your thoughts before we continue.
No, I would accept what the you said here. I would like to point one thing out now, though. Just to say that I've been trying to get information from the council I didn't get. I couldn't get last night. I tried to get into a meeting last night of the Finance and Governance from Porthcawl Town Council. The clerk has refused me permission. This is on, I've got it here because I took photo shots of it. I am being excluded from that council by the clerks and by some councillors. And I think I'd like to know how I am able to complain against the clerk. Now, Ms. Watson, you know that I've asked you recently to help me, especially over the last month, because the clerk wanted to destroy an audit report.
Bear with Councillor Jones.
Councillor Jones. Viewers need to be off. These are not matters that this committee can comment on or get involved with, and they're not appropriate for this hearing here. What you're being asked at the moment by the chair and by the committee is, have you got any submissions you want to make in relation to the sanction?
And who do I go to get help? about a clerk that's not actually
Okay,
doing their job.
we can pick that up outside the meeting. It's not
Thank you very
appropriate
much,
for
and
this
then I'll
meeting.
accept what's been said today, and I will accept the sanction that any council gives me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jones. We're now going to consider the information that we've received from the Ombudsman's reputation, and we will take a short recess. Thank you for your patience. The committee has unanimously agreed that a sanction is appropriate, having considered the submissions from the Ombudsman's representative. And having due regard to the aggregating and mitigating factors, the committee have determined that a 2-month sanction is appropriate. This decision will be conveyed in writing early next week and will include details of how to appeal. The committee will also be recommending to the full Standards Committee of Bridgend County Borough Council that they consider attending to observe meetings at Porthcawl Town Council. The committee will also be recommending to the full Standards Committee of Bridgend County Borough Council that they would consider attending to observe meetings at Porthcawl Town Council. So, unless anyone else has got anything else to add, we bring these proceedings to a close. Sorry, Councillor Jones.
I'd just like to say thank you very much in consideration of all the evidence, and thank you for the last piece of what you just said, that the Standards Committee will now start attending Porthcawl Town Council. That would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for attending today.
Thank you.